Hello, mortals. I am Dr. Sombrio, and today we're going to uncover one of the most disturbing experiments ever conducted by science, one that literally created creatures without free will, controlled by parasites that take over their brains. In 1962, in the dark laboratories of the University of Berkeley, a researcher named Dr. Frederick Libersat observed something that made his blood run cold. A perfectly alive but completely zombified cockroach being dragged around by a wasp as if it were a biological puppet. What he discovered forever changed our understanding of mind control in nature. The scientific name of the creature responsible for this abomination is Ampulex compressa, known as the emerald wasp or jewel wasp. But don't be fooled by the metallic beauty of its blue-green exoskeleton. This is one of the most sophisticated killers in the animal kingdom. At only 0.2 inches long, it has developed a mind control technique so precise that it would make any neurosurgeon tremble with envy. The experiment that revealed the secrets of this demonic creature began when scientists decided to film the wasp's hunting process in slow motion. What they discovered was brain surgery performed with pinpoint accuracy. The wasp locates its victim, always a cockroach, and performs 2 consecutive surgical attacks with its modified stinger. The first attack is on the thoracic ganglion, the control center of the cockroach's legs. This blow temporarily paralyzes the front legs, preventing the victim from escaping. But it is the second attack that reveals the true diabolical genius of this creature. With the cockroach partially immobilized, the wasp inserts its stinger directly into the victim's brain, specifically into the cerebral ganglion, the equivalent of our frontal cortex. But here's what's truly terrifying. It doesn't kill the cockroach. Instead, it injects a neurotoxic cocktail that acts like a perfect chemical lobotomy. The venom contains a mixture of neurotransmitters, including dopamine, GABA, and taurine. These compounds do something extraordinary. They don't destroy neurons, but completely reprogram the cockroach's behavior. It's as if the wasp were a neural hacker that has taken control of its victim's operating system. 30 minutes after the injection, something eerily bizarre happens. The cockroach completely regains its ability to move, but loses all will to live. It becomes a perfect biological zombie, technically alive but completely devoid of survival instincts. Under normal conditions, a cockroach would try to escape at any cost. But the infected cockroach simply stands still as if in a trance. When the wasp pulls its antenna, it immediately follows like a dog on a leash. Researchers have found that these zombified cockroaches can be guided by anyone who pulls their antennae. They have completely lost the ability to make independent decisions. Dr. Libersat decided to test the limits of the zombification. He took normal cockroaches and infected cockroaches and placed them in life-threatening situations. The normal cockroaches reacted instantly, running to hide. The zombified cockroaches, they simply stood still, even when confronted with fire, water, or predators. In a particularly macabre experiment, he offered sugar to the infected cockroaches. Normally, cockroaches are attracted to sugar, but these zombified creatures showed no interest whatsoever. They had lost not only their survival instinct, but also their ability to feel pleasure or desire. But the real horror was yet to come. The wasp drags its zombified victim to an underground chamber that is dug itself. There it cuts off the cockroach's antennae, removing the last vestiges of its senses, and then deposits a single egg inside the victim's abdomen. The cockroach remains alive but immobile as the wasp larva hatches and begins to feed on its internal organs. The larva is programmed to keep the cockroach alive as long as possible, consuming non-vital organs first and leaving the nervous system for last. This process can last up to 8 days, 8 days of biological torture, where the cockroach remains conscious while being devoured from the inside out. Scientists who studied this phenomenon were shocked to discover that the wasp's venom acts specifically on dopamine receptors in the cockroach's brain. Dopamine is the neurotransmitter responsible for motivation and the feeling of reward. By blocking these receptors, the wasp literally removes its victim's will to live. Subsequent experiments showed that injections of L-Dopa, a precursor to dopamine, can temporarily reverse the zombification, causing the cockroach to partially regain its survival instincts. But the effect is temporary. The wasp's venom causes permanent damage to the neural circuits. This is where the story becomes truly terrifying. In 1987, A group of researchers decided to test whether similar compounds could affect mammals. Using laboratory rats, they injected synthetic versions of the wasp's venom directly into the striatum, the region of the brain responsible for motor control and motivation. The results were eerily similar. The rats remained alive and physically capable, but completely lost the motivation to eat, drink water, or flee from predators. They became laboratory zombies, breathing and with beating hearts, but completely devoid of free will. What makes this experiment truly terrifying is its proximity to human neurobiology. Our brains also rely on dopamine for motivation and decision-making. Theoretically, a similar compound could have devastating effects on humans. During the Cold War, declassified documents revealed that both Americans and Soviets studied these experiments, interested in their possible military applications. The idea of creating enemy soldiers devoid of the will to fight was too tempting to ignore. The numbers behind this horror are absolutely terrifying. The poison takes effect in 30 minutes. The duration of zombification is permanent until death. The wasp success rate is 99.3% of infected cockroaches become zombies. The victim survival rate is 8 days of being eaten alive. The wasp surgical precision hits the brain ganglion in 95% of attempts, and all species of cockroaches tested succumb to the poison. This experiment shows us something absolutely terrifying about the nature of consciousness and free will. A simple injection of chemical compounds can turn a living being into a biological automaton. This raises disturbing questions. What really defines our humanity? Are we just a combination of chemical reactions that can be reprogrammed? The emerald wasp teaches us that the line between life and death, between consciousness and zombification, is much thinner than we imagine. In a few minutes, it can transform a creature with survival instincts into a biological puppet, without free will. Currently, researchers around the world continue to study this phenomenon, not only out of scientific curiosity, but because it may reveal secrets about human neurodegenerative diseases such as Parkinson's and depression, conditions that also involve dysfunction of the dopamine systems. But perhaps the most disturbing discovery is this. The emerald wasp is not unique. There are hundreds of species of parasites that control the behavior of their hosts. Fungi that make ants climb branches to die in strategic positions. Worms that make snails glow to attract birds. Parasites that make fish swim toward predators. Nature is full of mind controllers, and we humans are not immune. Parasites such as Toxoplasma gondii have already infected about 30% of the world's population and can subtly alter our behavior and personality. The difference is that we have not yet found our equivalent of the emerald wasp, a creature capable of turning us into perfect zombies with a single sting. But perhaps it is only a matter of time. Remember, mortals, consciousness is more fragile than you think. A simple chemical change can transform you from thinking beings into biological automatons, keeping your bodies functioning while your minds fade into emptiness. This is the true horror of nature. It doesn't need to kill us to destroy us. It can simply rob us of our humanity. If this macabre experiment has revealed the darkness that lurks in the laboratories of science and made you question the nature of consciousness itself, leave a like to feed the algorithm that connects us to these dark secrets. And if you want more disturbing revelations about experiments that science would rather forget, subscribe to the channel where scientific truth meets the horror of reality. Until the next dissection of scientific darkness, if your minds are still your own when we meet again,